What's up, y'all? It's Greg. I've been shooting with the Sony ZV-1F for about a month now. It's a cool little tiny autofocus-y vlogging camera made by Sony, the predecessor of which is the Sony ZV-1 and the ZV-1 Mark II. What I'm going to do is switch from the FX30 to the ZV-1F right now. This is the ZV-1F. So I've been using the ZV-1F for about a month now, and I gotta say that despite its flaws, it's a pretty cool little camera. I carry it with me almost everywhere. The ability to record this high quality of video with this small of an audio setup is pretty dope, and I think that this is less of a, well, I guess it is a review, but it's not like a, hey, go buy this camera kind of review. It's just like, I've been using it a lot, and this is kind of what I think of it. So the ZV-1F has a fixed 20 millimeter equivalent lens on a 1-inch sensor. It goes down to f2. You won't get like a ridiculous amount of bokeh just because you're using a shorter lens and you are only going to f2. But I would say that this is probably fine for most like vlog. At least in my experience, I kind of want less background blur in a talking head situation because I set this whole cool background up and I kind of want you to be able to see some of it. I don't want it to be clear and focused as I am, but I want it to be there, you know. I still think it could be a little bit more blown out. Like if it went down to 1.8, it would be perfect for me. But an f2 lens is solid. You get plenty of low light performance. Right now I'm at ISO 800 with aperture all the way at f2, shutter speeds at 1/60th of a second. I am a little underexposed, like 0.3 of a stop underexposed in my face according to the meter. Don't really see that, but that's what it says. And then I have my light right here. I have a light behind me, window for like a hair light. My key lights are the two windows on the side wall here, and then also my little light right here. And that's kind of my whole lighting setup, and I think that this looks pretty good. Not getting any crazy catch lights unless I turn this way. Looks good to me. I got distracted by a flying thing. I don't know what it is. Here's a downside to shooting outside. Let's see. Let's find another little cool little patch of light. Let's go back here to where there's a little more light to play with. Like, ooh, like that. Right behind me there. Let's see. I will say that one of the negative parts about this camera is that sometimes when you move, it does lose you when you're tracking focus. Like, I wanted to kind of do this, and it seems to like want to focus on the background instead of focus on me. But the problem that I have when I switch it to that like front of the camera focus, like it's got that focus mode on it that I can't remember the name of. I'll put right here. The problem really is that when I'm in the frame, it's fine for the most part. Like it doesn't generally miss if I'm the only thing in the frame. But as soon as I move or like put my hand in the frame or something else like moves around in the frame, that's when I start having problems with where it's focusing. Like it's hitting my eye, now it's hitting my face, now it's hitting my eye, and I can see where it's tracking in the LCD screen because we're in the shade, and so I can actually see the LCD screen. Okay, so pro number one, it's small, it's light, it's portable. It's a 1-inch sensor, so it's smaller than my Micro Four Thirds sensor, but because it's a fixed focal length lens, because it's a small light camera that can kind of slide right in my bag. I don't have to think about like, okay, should I bring my 25 or should I leave the kit lens on and then lose some of that quality? I don't have to think about that. It's a 20mm f2 equivalent lens on a sort of wider, on a sort of smaller, tinier camera body. So you end up with a great looking, the good looking image, mid audio quality. It does shoot in, I think, S-Log 2. See, this is what I was talking about with the focus thing. Otherwise, you can just use the stock profiles. This is the neutral profile with a little bit of like saturation adjustments and stuff like that, just to make it closer to what would pop out of S-Cinetone in the FX30. It's not S-Cinetone, so it's not going to look exactly the same, but it should look similar enough that I don't have to do a bunch of color grading, because I'm not good at that yet. I'm still learning. If DaVinci Resolve kind of worked like Lightroom, I would have a way easier time. But the hue circles and the knobs like confuse me a little bit because I'm not used to it yet. But we're getting there. We're learning. Anyway, so there's a couple good things. One, I can see right above the lens here that I'm recording. So like there's the red box on the screen. There's the red record light here that lets me know that I'm recording, so I can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so it's small, it's portable, it's easy to carry around. Two, it's a fixed focal length, so I don't have to worry about zoom, even though it does have a digital zoom on it. It's fine. It's actually pretty okay, but it doesn't get anywhere near as much distance on it as does like an actual optical zoom. You don't have the opportunity to zoom in and out like that, so you really do have to camera move, right? You do have to move around with the camera, and part of me is like, that's okay for me for this, right? Like for like standing in the yard and vlogging, for even like doing like a walk and talk thing like I was doing before, but for doing any kind of like cinematic shooting, like for trying to shoot, it may not be the best, just because a 20mm is kind of limited. It's great for this, you know, it gets enough of the background that I am clearly in a place and you can see that I am in a place, but like it's not enough of it to be like, you know, it's not like a 16mm or a 10 or an 11mm where it's like super wide, you can see everything, but you also don't get the same amount of depth of field because it's a 1-inch sensor. So even my Micro Four Thirds camera gets a better depth of field than this, but I don't trust the OMD for autofocusing on my face like this while shooting video. I don't trust this as much as I trust the FX30. So there's like a tiered list, right? I trust the FX30 completely. I have no doubt that when I'm looking at the camera, I'm always in focus in the FX30. Don't have that problem. With the OMD, I don't trust it at all. Because as much as I love the autofocus for stills in the OMD, the EM10 Mark III just isn't the best autofocus that Olympus had to offer, even at the time. So like now, especially, it's probably way better. But back then, no. And especially since I'm using like manual focus lenses a lot of the time now, there's no articulating screen, so I can't do the kind of like set it and forget it thing that I can do with the FX30 or even with this. And even though this misses focus sometimes, like sometimes I'll be here for too long or I'll like look away and the focus will move, which is not great. I also just kind of realized that I'm super close to this air conditioner. Let's move again. This will give me a good like test of how the movement is with the monopod. Ooh. There we go. Okay, so I moved a little bit. Just that should be better, maybe. I don't know. We also got like different lighting, so like I thought, you know, cool. We get like some cool like sun flares if I move in the right direction. Anyway, I was saying something. Okay, so small and light, better autofocus. The next thing is the ease of use of this kind of like portable microphone setup, where you could get like a Rode video mic, or what I use, the Rode Wireless Go, or the Wireless Me if you want to get a little fancier or whatever. You can use those, and it's a whole heck of a lot more high quality audio from such a small camera body. So you don't have like the issues that I've had using it initially, which was the internal mic, which I'll drop a clip in right here. Talking like normal. This is the internal mic. I definitely would use an external mic. So like if you was gonna get this sort of setup, my suggestion would be grab an external mic, either one right on top of the camera or a wireless mic if you're gonna do cool stuff. So that's the internal mic for the ZV-1F. Using an external mic is super easy. There's a headphone jack on the, or a microphone jack, sorry, on the outside here. So something like the wireless mics that I'm using, or the Rode video mic or something that plugs into the camera, will give you better quality audio, and it's still a relatively small package. I have my zebras on to set for things that are super overexposed, so I know I'm a little overexposed, especially moving in and out of the light, but that's kind of on purpose. I wanted to test like how good it can track me with this fluctuating sort of light situation, because I do notice that occasionally it will like pull focus back behind me, or too close, whatever, you know. But it does a pretty solid job of tracking. You're doing short clips where the autofocus won't jump back and forth. I feel like you're fine. Now that the ZV-E10 has been released, or the ZV-E10 Mark II has been released, the Mark 1s are dropping. Honestly, I kind of think like if you're in this price range, if the Mark 1 body only drops to about 500 and you can get a lens, the Viltrox 20mm f1.8 is like 200 bucks. And then if you can find a ZV-E10 used, that might be a move, because then you're in the interchangeable lens system. But I kind of, the reason I didn't do that, because I was of those two minds when I got this camera. And the reason I went with the fixed lens instead of with the ZV-E10, which does the interchangeable lenses, is twofold. One, is because I heard the Mark II was coming. When I was doing my shopping around, I was like, there was like rumors floating around about the Mark II. So I was like, well, if it's an FX30 without like the fan and the extra SD card slot, that's a great secondary camera, you know. So I kind of was like, let's wait until the Mark II comes out, see how well that functions, see if we can't find a body only on sale. But I really wanted to try to get into the vlogging situation as quickly as possible. I also don't know enough about vlogging in terms of like actual practicality to be like, here's the best lenses for doing it, because I haven't, like, I it's all been phone based for me up until very recently. So I was like, I want it to be better than my phone, but I don't want it to be a full-on interchangeable lens system because I'm not as familiar with the Sony system as I am with Nikon, or Canon, or especially Olympus, Lumix, Panasonic, Micro Four Thirds stuff. Going back and forth between like maybe a GH5 because the GH5 is still great, or the OMD EM10 Mark IV, which has a flip down screen, which not great, but better than a screen that doesn't articulate at all. But then I started researching the ZV-1F, and it was checking all the boxes, except for the weird little like autofocus thing that it sometimes does, which as long as you're doing clips or cutting, like editing, I don't think that it's super crazy. But let me know if you see it. You know, I did that whole first video, or the whole second video, I guess, with the ZV-1F, and I didn't have that problem. We were in bright sunlight, and I never had that issue. So I don't know if maybe it's just like product focus mode problem, and when you're in all manual controls, you don't have that to the same degree. I don't know if it was like continuous autofocus. I don't know if it was setting my face up as like one of the faces to focus on. Not really sure. What I will say, it is a much easier use case than the FX30 and things like that, and I don't trust it as much, but I think for what it is, that's okay. I don't think I have to trust it implicitly like I do the FX30. For the most part, if I'm shooting with it, then it's okay if I miss focus, and it's okay if like a couple of little things are wrong, because really what I'm trying to do is capture the moment. So as long as it doesn't stay missed, as long as the microphones work for it, as long as I can catch stuff with active stabilization still, as long as it fits onto my monopod and I can carry it around like this, you know, I don't think I will have as many issues with it as some other YouTubers have had, just because I don't know what to look for. You know what I mean? Video is still new to me. As a stills camera, I have some critiques, right? Like one, it just shoots JPEG, it doesn't shoot RAW at all, which for the average person who's using this, probably fine. I don't think RAW is necessary when you're looking for a camera like this. You probably don't even know what to do with RAW, which is why it's so interesting that it shoots the logs, because I would argue sort of the same thing, right? Like you probably, if you're looking for a camera like this, are either like carrying it around with you everywhere and don't really care about shooting log, or you don't know what you're doing yet. Hello. and so you don't shoot in log. But I will say that just the option to do that is cool on a camera for this budget, with this size, with a 1-inch sensor. I can learn how to do color grading. Pretty cool that that's even an option. Kind of it with the ZV-1F. I would say I'm enjoying using it so far. I carry it with me everywhere. If I could, like, 3 things real quick. 1, set everything to manual and kind of force yourself to learn it if you don't know manual controls already. I think you'll find that going into the manual modes eliminates a lot of the problems that this camera has. 2, autofocus. Take it out of product focus mode. I know that that's one of the like selling points of this camera, but like maybe try it without it, because it still does the autofocus thing really well. It's just not as like close up. So only use product focus if you're actually going to show a product. If you have recorded everything else, go into product focus mode, and then you can show off your stuff, and then you don't have to worry about as much of the twitching in the background. And then the third thing is get yourself an ND filter. That will help immensely with your outside image quality. I'm using it right now because it doesn't really come off my camera. I leave it on there all the time